Let's talk Buckeyes, though, Ari. This team is probably proving us wrong. Remember how we said the super team era was over? And maybe it's not. Maybe they're just another super team at Ohio State. This team's really freaking good.
I've been kicking this around, like workshopping. I'm going to write a few columns this week. I'm getting bubbly. I want to write one from Miami off the question I asked. I'm probably going to do that when we're done here. But I want to workshop this with you, and I thought that this discussion would be the perfect time to do it. And by the way, we are 41 minutes into this episode, and you haven't had to correct my syntax once. How about that? Isn't that great? I say that with the intention of saying this is a really good football team. Okay, Andy, the thing that I'm thinking about writing, as this preamble couldn't be any longer, is that like when Georgia was at its peak, we didn't talk about them much because they were boring. It's just, who did Georgia play? Oh, they won. Okay, great. Like they've got all the best players. And I don't know if I'm overreacting to this because it's still very early in the season. Are we in the midst of watching Ohio State transform from really great team, one of the 5 best, to the unspoken best program in college football? Are we on the verge of, and this kind of hit me. I was even listening to Bill Anderson, Doug Maurice. So I give them credit after the Texas game on the drive back. And they were talking about, how do you view the Texas loss? Do you view Texas losing to Ohio State as, well, they lost to Ohio State, no big deal, everyone will? Or do you view that as Texas is broken in some way, or Texas isn't good enough? And I think that at the time, this hasn't aged well. It was Ohio State's just really good. That's going to happen. And I feel like we're transitioning to a period. If Ryan Day can beat Michigan this year and finally put that whole thing to bed, that you might have a case that he is the best coach in college football at the moment, while also mastering how to maintain high levels of talent in an era where that's incredibly difficult. Talk me off the ledge. Am I overthinking this, or do you think we're seeing a transition of the new super team? Not super team, but the new dynasty is the better word.
You're not overthinking this. If they can keep this level of talent together for a few years, which is probably the trick in this era, then you may see kind of a dynastic run. And is it possible to do? I don't know. But this is the most talented team in the country. It feels like there are other talented teams. I think Alabama has a ton of talent. I think Oregon has a ton of talent, but this one seems to operate at a higher level, to use its talent, to maximize its talent in the best way. Now, maybe we just haven't seen them play the best competition, which is crazy because we assumed Texas was the best competition. But so far, they've passed every test. And I want to play what PJ Fleck said after the Minnesota game to help you understand what we're dealing with here, what we're talking about here, because we could play clips from Ryan Day or from Matt Patricia talking about this team. I don't think that matters because they're gonna be humble. They're gonna be nice. PJ Fleck just got his ass kicked by this team. This is minutes after the game. This is what he said.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the best defenses I've ever seen in 13 years. And I mean that because I never met Coach Patricia. I got a chance to see him after the game, but it's not just the players and the depth. That's exceptional. I mean, that's off the charts. It's some of the best I've seen, but it's the schematic pieces that make it so complex, where every single play is a different front structure, blitz structure, coverage structure. Now in the second half, they went more to, one rat, and they could do that. So you weren't able to create any separation, and they could stop the run. So, I mean, but it was, that was pretty dominating. That's for sure. They got really good players. They got a really good scheme. They complement each other very well. They put you in that phone booth. I mean, we knew that's why I went 4 on 4 down. It was 14-3 at the time. I mean, 4th and 1, guys. I could punt it, but would you rather have a 90-yard touchdown or a chance to get a first down?
That's it. That's the dilemma. And PJ Fleck's a good coach. And Minnesota's not a bad team. Like, Minnesota's going to beat a lot of teams down the stretch. PJ Fleck is telling you, it's easier for me to go for 1 yard against this impossible defense, because if I punt, they're just going to march 90 yards on us because we can't defend all their playmakers on offense. I have another clip where he talks about their offense. It's the same thing. Like I could play it, but it'd be the same thing. Like they have everything and they know how to use it. Do we have the picture of Matt Patricia that I sent, River? It's coming. The fact that
One
Matt
where you look like a cab driver.
well, I was going to say an extra in the Legend of Bagger Vance, but either one. There's Matt Patricia. But he's been amazing. But what's not boring is Panini has a new Ohio State box. And you got an Ohio State box in the mail the other day. You can visit PaniniAmerica.net to start collecting your favorites. What did you pull out of that Ohio State box, Ari?
So I don't know. I haven't even comped the values of these cards, but I got these. So basically, they send you an Ohio State team set, and you can get football. There's like women's volleyball players in it. There's all sorts of stuff in it. But obviously, you're chasing some of the super short prints of Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sand. So I hit a Contenders Campus Legends Jeremiah Smith numbered to 199, and we're talking about somebody who doesn't have cards really. And I think that's what's awesome about Panini is that they have the NIL cards. So you're starting to get branded, licensed cards of some of the best players in the sport. And I don't know what these are worth yet because there's not that many of them. You have to get them in the box set. And then I hit this one too, which, when it was printed might not have been a big deal, but considering how he's playing, Panini Contenders Ohio State NIL box set of Arvell Reese. And he's been.
I love Arvell Reese. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Yeah.
Linebackers in the country. This is also numbered to 199. And like I have an entire stack of Ohio State cards I need to go over there. But like the box, if you're an Ohio State fan and you like cards, like you cannot afford not to buy these things.
And it's interesting as we watch Bill Belichick flail down in Chapel Hill. Matt Patricia, who was part of the Belichick Mafia, who was his defensive coordinator with the Patriots, he is having an excellent season with a bunch of top-end talent at Ohio State. But he's done a great job. And, we just saw Jim Knowles, who left Ohio State. He just got flummoxed by Jerry Neuheisel, who became offensive coordinator at UCLA on Tuesday of last week. And so Knowles is at Penn State. They haven't dropped a bit. In fact, they might be better defensively than they were last year. This team's scary. And they're going into Illinois this week. It's a noon game. And, it's interesting. So Brett Bielema got asked about this situation. And Ari, you and I were both at the game that gets referenced in this question to Brett Bielema. And it's the 2010 Ohio State at Wisconsin game where Wisconsin beat Ohio State. Let's hear Brett talk about this. And then we can kind of do a mini preview about why maybe that's not as similar as people want to think.
Your fifth year at Wisconsin, you played number 1 Ohio State in week 6. You were 18, they were 1. Like, this is an identical scenario. Do you draw on that at all? Do you, try to reduce the mystique of number 1 for your players? How do you look at that?
Yeah, we definitely are going through a process. I think anybody that knows me or has been around me, and anybody that's played for me, we have a way of doing things that is very guided. But yeah, I actually referenced that team to this group back in fall camp. To have this moment, there are a lot of things more to show them that this is something that if you come to college football, these moments really don't happen all that often. I've been head coach 17 years, and the amount of times where I get this moment have been very few. So to realize the moment you're in and take advantage of it, like I've said, I told it to our players yesterday, a special memory is created from moments, right? And what you do with that moment makes that memory. So I'm super excited for our guys. I'm really excited for our fans. I say it to our players, and I want people to understand where I'm coming from. This is no disrespect to anything that's happened in the past year, right? But like these moments just don't happen. They're created over a long time. The Michigan moment a year ago created a memory that lasts a lifetime. I still have people coming up to me this year and then that USC game last week was really, really pretty awesome, right? And obviously to have number 1 Ohio State coming here is awesome. But there's a lot of really good players that are playing on both sides of the ball. So. That was a night kickoff, so it was a little bit different. And that year we had lost to Michigan State early in the year, kind of knocked us back. You're right, I think we were number 18. But that was pre, playoffs and all that stuff, right? So the rankings weren't there. So, but yeah, I think the fact that not many of our guys have been in these type of games. So the good news is they've been in a lot of big games and they've done well.
What game was that? Was it the Juice Williams game?
No, he's referencing the 2010 Ohio State Wisconsin game.
Oh,
you and I were there. They rushed the field.
I was there.
Jim Tressel's doing his post game press conference, and they announced over the loudspeaker, "Please get off the goalposts." And I like the difference. And you notice Brett Bielema filibustered like crazy there, because he is not going to for 1 second insinuate that they're going to do to this Ohio State team what his Wisconsin team did to that Ohio State team, because that was a deeply flawed Ohio State team. And Wisconsin had J.J. Watt, the highly underrated Scott Tolzien was the starting quarterback on that team, I believe. This is a different situation. Like, this is Brett going, "Hey, we just got beat by 53 by Indiana, boys. Like, let's not get crazy here."
Yeah, I'm looking back at the box score of that game. I was there. I don't remember it. I remember that was one of the
Terrell Pryor kind of imploded in the second half. It was they just Ohio State was not one of Jim Tressel's better Ohio State teams, and it was a very, very good Wisconsin team that, it was kind of their night, and they just bullied Ohio State down the stretch. This is not that, because Ohio State is better than that.
Oh, that was the year where Ohio State. That wasn't a very good Ohio State team, but they went 12-1. That was the Tatgate year. That was the one that ended with Tatgate. Yeah.
Yeah, it ended in that, but it was a situation where I think if they'd had to play a lot of really good teams, like, remember they played the Arkansas team at the end. They let the Tatgate guys play because the Big Ten needed a BCS bowl win. They were tired of getting embarrassed. So very different situations here. This Ohio State team is immensely more talented than that Ohio State team. Brett Bielema knows that. Brett Bielema is not going to give them any bulletin board material whatsoever, even though he's a notorious troll and would do that if he thought he could.
The thing that is so interesting about this Ohio State team is I spent so much time last year talking about the death of the super team, and they lost so many players from a team that won the national title, and it feels like they didn't lose anybody somehow.
Well, and I think because people like Arvell Reese, who we knew of him, but I don't think we realized what he was capable of.
And Ohio
he's
State
incredible.
Signs 7 to 11 top 100 players, top 150 players every year. So from a math standpoint, that's going to happen. And I've been aware of that since, you don't know who the next one's going to be, but the next one's on the roster somewhere. And I think that Ohio State is still the perfect illustration of how you need to build a roster if you're Georgia, you're Alabama. And I think those guys are doing it too. You have to still sign elite level recruiting classes after a 45-minute discussion about whether or not you should pay a quarterback out of high school. I still think that you need to sign 15 dogs every year at a minimum.
And by the way, they do have a 5-star waiting in the wings behind the current 5-star quarterback. Like, if Julian Sayin does not work out or something happens and next year they need a new starting quarterback, they have Tavian St. Clair sitting right there. So they've done this in the more traditional way and managed to keep doing it this way.
And guess what else is on Ohio State's roster? A 5-star receiver named Quincy Porter, who signed last year.
Yeah, who we don't talk about at all because of Jeremiah Smith, Cornell Tate, and Brandon Ennis.
And guess who else Ohio State has on the way? Have you seen the tape from Chris Henry, the 2026 5-star receiver that's committed? He's committed. So they keep getting these guys, and then on top of it, they bring in really good players in the portal. And the portal players, I think
Ethan Onianwa, who we mentioned in the Texas segment.
And here's basically my thesis on how to create a dominant year-over-year success in college football now. Believe it or not, stars still do matter. You need to recruit at a top 7 to 10 clip or higher on an annual basis. And you need to get to a place with your roster where you have good enough retention where the players you take in the portal are not out of necessity, but out of luxury. And Ohio State did that last year. Like, did they need Quinshon Judkins last year? Probably not, right? But they had him, and it worked. Do they need to go out and get some of the players that they've gotten across the board? In some cases, maybe, yes. But in most cases, Ohio State, like Will Howard last year, maybe was a yes, right? But I don't know how many teams in college football aren't hitting the portal and being like, we need to get this person, or we have a gaping hole in our roster. If you look at this Ohio State team and you compare them to some of the other elite level teams in this country, and I think Oregon might be in this conversation too, of like, which position group do they have a major hole at? And I think maybe you could say the running back position, but then Bo Jackson, the true freshman, or the freshman,
say he's doing fine,
he's doing really well.
Yeah.
Like, and that's a nitpick. Like, I'm trying to poke holes. I don't know what their overt weakness is. Their secondary is really good. They have 5-star freshman players all over the field.
Their defensive line has turned out to be very good too, and that's one that they were replacing basically every starter.
Yeah.
And they've turned out to be great. So they've done a really good job evaluating. They've done a really good job developing, which is hard to do in this era, hard to keep those guys there. So let's give Ryan Day and his staff some praise for doing it, because it's not that easy. I think Kirby Smart will tell you it's not that easy. I think Kalen DeBoer will tell you it's not that easy. They've managed to do it. So that's our way of saying we're sorry we haven't talked that much about the number one team in the country. And it's probably because they're so good that they're just rolling over people. That said, look, they're not unbeatable. There are teams in the country that can compete with Ohio State on a given day. So that's what makes this interesting. I don't know if Illinois is one of those teams. We'll find out. This is one of those
how many
situations
players
where
in Ohio State starting lineup, Andy, are transfers into this year out of the 22 players?
Well, one tackle. We know that. Ethan Onyanwa. Is it 2?
It's 3.
3. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, we sat down with Ryan Day at the beginning of last season, and he said, everybody talks about how heavy we were in the transfer portal. He's like, we have 9 transfers on this team. That was last year's team. And yeah, this year's team is mostly homegrown, and they've done a good job with it. It's sort of the funhouse mirror version of the Texas conversation, where Texas felt like the homegrown parts of the team were fine, and they didn't need to go out and get something, but they did.
Yeah.
Ohio State, interestingly enough, went to a group of 5 school in Texas and got a player at a position the Longhorns could have used.
Yeah. And their best player was a transfer, Caleb Downs, but that was
their best player is Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So
sorry for the oversight, Caleb Downs.
It's okay. It's very hard. It's very hard to deal with. It's a lot. So
yeah, there's a lot of players in their starting lineup. The point I'm making, that they recruited out of high school: Brandon Ennis, Jeremiah Smith, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Tegra Shabola, Julian Sand basically counts. Yep. I don't know if you count that. Carnell Tate's a high school recruit. Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Jermaine Matthews. Like, all these guys came from high school recruiting. So if you can retain your good young players, and I think Ohio State's probably done that better than anybody, right? They have figured out a way to recruit high-level players and keep them. And then they accentuate the roster with high-level transfers, and then they put it all together, and they make the best pizza of a team you can possibly imagine. Now, can you do it for 10 years, Andy? Can you do it for 5 years in a row? I think is the question we're going to find out.
Yeah, and that's a different question. But unfortunately for Illinois this week, I don't think it's changing for the rest of this year. They're really freaking good.